What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'll be talking about the top 20 drivers you need to watch out for in NASCAR in 2025. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The first driver you should watch out for in 2025 is Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson's coming off having a very impressive season in 2024 where he scored 6 wins, which is the most of anybody in the NASCAR Cup Series this year, but also led the most laps and had, I think, tied for the most top 5s of 2024. And also Kyle Larson had the chance and opportunity to run in the Indy 500 and showed a lot of promise. And he's going to have that chance and opportunity to do that again in 2025. Kyle Larson is someone you can always rely on a week-by-week basis. Probably the only guy that you probably can rely on a week-by-week basis. And I expect that Kyle Larson is going to be a weekly threat for victories. And I think he'll have a really good chance and opportunity to have a chance to maybe get redemption and get that second title. Of course, he did win the championship in 2021. I think Kyle Larson is number 5 team. They're back during the game. Kyle Larson's trying to also reach 10,000 laps led in NASCAR Cup Series competition. I believe only about 20 or 21 or 22 drivers have ever done that in the NASCAR Cup Series. So Kyle Larson is trying to join a very elite class as well. I expect Kyle Larson to be a major threat and serious contender throughout the 2025 campaign. I think Hendrick is going to bring the pace and speed, and I think Larson will get at least 4 or 5 wins next year. I expect to be a major threat and contender, and I think he'll have a good chance and opportunity to win a lot of races in 2025. The second driver to watch out for in 2025 is Shane Van Gisbergen. Shane Van Gisbergen is moving up full-time from the NASCAR Xfinity Series, where he, of course, drove for Kaulig Racing in number 97 car, and will end up, of course, driving a number 88 car for Trackhouse Racing in 2025. Shane was very impressive in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2024, scoring 3 victories, those coming at Chicago, of course, at Portland, and at Sonoma Raceway. And he also had some pretty strong runs at ovals as well in 2024, finishing in the top 5 at Indianapolis, getting a top 10 at Darlington, and near the end of the year in the NASCAR Cup Series, he got a couple top 10, 15 finishes on ovals, finishing inside the top 15 at Martinsville, where he finished in 12th, and of course finishing inside the top 15 at Talladega, and had a top 10 run, of course, at the Charlotte Roval. I think SVG is going to be contending for a couple wins, along with the fact that, of course, that we know how good Trackhouse's equipment has been on road courses, and then I know they're looking to improve throughout the 2025 campaign. I do think that Shane Van Gisbergen has a lot of potential. And I think he's going to be someone that could probably win the Rookie of the Year. He will be going for that, of course, in 2025. I also think it's a very good chance and possibility that Shane Van Gisbergen more than likely will be Rookie of the Year. His biggest competition most likely will be Riley Herbst next year for that, but I do think SVG will likely be the contender to win Rookie of the Year in the Cup Series in 2025. The third driver to watch out for in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2025 is the driver of the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports, Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott is coming off having a very solid year in 2024. He had basically kind of went back to where he was in 2021, where he was super consistent. He only got 1 win in 2024, but Chase Elliott was always up front on a week-by-week basis. And what gets me excited for Chase Elliott is the fact that he had a lot of speed near the end of this year. He led, I believe, over 100 laps at Martinsville, and he also led, I believe, about 50 or 60 laps at Homestead as well. And I think he nearly led 100 laps in that one too. This 19's been showing up near the end of this year, and I do think that speed will carry on into the 2025 season, where I think Chase Elliott will probably end up scoring a few victories, and I think he'll be a massive threat and major contender for wins, and I think he will be a championship contender once again in the 2025 year. Chase is someone who has shown so much potential, and I think Chase has a good chance and opportunity to win multiple races, and I think he will 100% be a championship threat and a serious contender for the championship in the 2025 Cup Series season. The fourth driver to watch out for in 2025 is Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is coming off of having a very bad year, probably the worst year of his NASCAR Cup Series career. This is also the first season where Kyle Busch failed to score a victory. But there were times this year in 2024 where Kyle Busch showed the potential to go to victory lane. And I think that Kyle Busch in this A-team are going to be looking to bounce back. early in the year in 2024, there were a couple chances he could have won. He could have won the Daytona 500, could have won the Las Vegas, and was very close to winning at Atlanta as well. And I felt like there was time in the middle to end of the year where this number 8 team really showed up, probably from the fact they got help from a Joe Gibbs Racing employee. But I do think Kyle Busch will have a bounce back year slightly. I'm not expecting Kyle Busch to absolutely set the world on fire and be a major championship contender, but I think it's a really good possibility that Kyle Busch will end up going back to victory lane, considering I think that Kyle Busch is a very, very good driver still to this day, and I think RCR has been the big problem for Kyle Busch. So he'll be back there next year in 2025, and I think he's got a good chance and opportunity to really turn it around, be a better driver next year, and I think he will show more pace and speed, where I think that he'll be contending for top 10s on a week-by-week basis, and I think the team will get it together as they've hired some new people over that program for the 2025 year. The 5th driver to watch out for in 2025 is Connor Zilisch. Connor Zilisch, in my opinion, is the best prospect we have seen in NASCAR in a very, very long time, since either Kyle Larson or probably Joey Logano. Connor Zilisch is someone who's been super impressive in the lower series and will go full-time with Junior Motorsports in the number 88 car this upcoming season. He got his first win in Xfinity competition in his first ever start. Not only that, he won his first truck pole in his first truck start and won his first Xfinity pole in his first start. And he's had a couple top 5 finishes along with that as well. I think he's had 3 or 4 top 10 finishes, and basically his worst finish is like a 12th or 13th, and his average finish is like a 5th place in the 4 starts he's ran so far. I think Connor is going to be a championship threat and contender. And I think he's going to take the place of where SVG won multiple races. I think he's going to take that place of winning a lot of races in 2025. I'm really excited to see what Connor Zilisch can do. He is a super talented driver who has shown a lot of potential as a young driver. I think working with Junior Motorsports next year, I think he'll have a good chance and opportunity to win as a rookie and could be one of the youngest champions we've seen in the sport. I think Connor will be a threat and contender for the championship in 2025. The 6th driver to watch out for in 2025 is Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is going to be back with 23XL Racing for the next couple years through the 2026 season, even though there's been a lot of rumors and speculation that 23XL Racing may not even run the full season in 2025 with the current lawsuit going on. But Bubba Wallace was very impressive in the second half of the year, and he had a career year in 2024, where Bubba Wallace, while he did not end up picking up a victory and missing the playoffs, I believe he had 6 or 7 top 5s and had 14 top 10s at the end of the year. Bubba Wallace had a very solid year, and any driver would probably love to have those stats even if they were a really good driver. Bubba is someone who has shown a lot of improvement, and I feel like 23XL Racing is really headed toward a bright future going forward. And I think Bubba Wallace will get back to victory lane. He also will have a new crew chief with Charles Deneke coming in, which is one of the reasons why I think you're going to see this team take that step forward. Charles Deneke has worked exceptionally well with Christian Eckes over the last couple of years in the Craftsman Truck Series, and I do think that Bubba Wallace will be a serious threat and serious contender for wins, and I think he could have an outside chance at the championship, where I think he will be a threat for a title in 2025. The 7 drivers to watch out for in 2025 is Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain had a little bit of a down year in performance in 2024, where he did not win until the latter portion of the year, which of course with that win coming at Kansas. But I like the speed the one team showed near the end of this year. They were one of the most consistent teams in the last 10 races of this year. And I feel like that Ross Chastain and the one team kind of flew under the radar, which a lot of times when teams fly under the radar, the next year they tend to be very, very strong. And I do expect that for Ross Chastain going into 2025. I think he will get back to victory lane like he's done the last 3 years. And I think he'll lead a lot more laps than he did this year. I also think they're going to clean up a lot of mistakes. One thing that happened to Ross Chastain throughout 2024 is he had a lot of mistakes on the track and a lot of crashes. Had he not crashed as much, most likely Ross Chastain makes the playoffs. But I like the speed Ross showed, and I think that Ross Chastain and this number 1 team are really going to turn it around. And I think it will be a much more improved year, as I think Ross Chastain will have a very solid and good year, and I think will have an outside chance at the championship in 2025. The 8th driver that you should watch out for in 2025 is Christopher Bell. Outside of Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell was probably the best driver in the NASCAR Cup Series this year. Christopher Bell was super consistent through the final 10 races of these playoffs, with basically only having one finish outside of the top 10 the entire time, and that was at Watkins Glen, where I believe he got a top 15 finish. And he won 3 races in 2024. And I think Christopher Bell will get back to victory lane once again in 2025 as well. Christopher Bell is someone who has super impressed me over these last few years, and I think he's emerging as one of the future stars, and he's a lot more outspoken as well, which is something I really like to see from a young driver. Christopher Bell is someone who's, of course, older than me, but he's not as much older, and I think that you're going to see Bell really start taking those major steps going forward, and I think he will be a major championship threat and serious contender in 2025. I think he'll have a chance and opportunity, and we might see Christopher Bell at the age of 30 years old finally win his first title. I think he's got a good chance and opportunity to do that, and I think he will be a threat in 2025. The 9th driver that you should watch out for in 2025 is Tyler Reddick. Very similar to Bubba Wallace, his future is a tiny bit in question because of the charter lawsuit going on at the moment, but I think that will get resolved, which means Tyler Reddick will probably be sticking around. Now, Tyler Reddick in 2024 became a really big superstar, had basically his second 3-win season of his NASCAR Cup Series career, and Tyler Reddick won the regular season championship and made it to the championship 4. Now, he did not win the championship this year, but I gotta say he was super impressive this year, and 23-11 has just continued to only get better as time has progressed and went on. I don't know if Tyler Reddick is going to win as many races as he did in 2024, but I do believe that Tyler Reddick will be a championship contender. 23-11's ultimate goal is to be able to win a championship by the 5th year. This is coming up to their 5th year as a team, so their goal should be to be winning championships by this year. If they could bring the pace and speed they had a lot of this year and a lot of this season, you might see Tyler Reddick have a chance and a shot to do that. We'll see what Tyler Reddick can do, but I think he will be a threat and contender and will be very strong in the 2025 season. The 10th driver you should watch out for in 2025 is Corey Heim. Corey Heim, once again, is back in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this upcoming year. He is the absolute favorite to win the Truck Series championship. He is not going to have guys like Christian Eckes and Nick Sanchez in the series. However, he is going to have to deal with drivers, of course, like Roger Carruth, Lane Riggs, Caden Honeycutt, Grant Enfinger, and Ty Majeski, who just won the most recent Truck Series title. But Corey Heim is someone who's very high on Toyota's radar. But what's disappointing is they're not moving him up for whatever reason. And I feel like if you're a Toyota, you should be moving Corey Heim up, because Corey Heim is a driver who is super talented and has a lot of capabilities to be a champion in the Cup Series. He's shown that potential. He's been super impressive in the lower series. And I think if you're a team and organization like 23-11, if you can get it done in the future, you've got to find a way to move him up. To me, I think Corey Heim is a very good driver, and I think he will be very solid, and I think he will for sure be a championship threat and a serious contender for the title this upcoming year. The 11th driver they should watch out for in 2025 is Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar made some mistakes. There's no denying that. But when he was on this year, he was absolutely on. Carson Hocevar was one of the best rookies we have seen at least in a couple of years. He was very impressive this year with the Spire Motorsports equipment and outperformed that equipment throughout the year to the point where he almost finished in a top 20 in the standings by the end of this year and won Rookie of the Year honors, beating out Josh Berry and Zane Smith for that. And Carson Hocevar, especially with Spire Motorsports, expected to get much more upgrades going into 2025. I think Carson could be that driver that could break out this year. I'm not expecting him to go out there and contend for victories on a week-by-week basis, but I would not be surprised or shocked if you see him get a lot more top 5s and a lot more top 10s this year and be an outside contender for the playoffs of how much potential Carson Hocevar has. I think he is going to be a guy you're going to have to watch out for 2025, as I do believe that Spire Motorsports is only going to get better and get stronger in 2025, especially with Carson Hocevar. The 12th driver that you should watch out for in 2025 is Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe is joining Joe Gibbs Racing in 2025, taking over from Mark Truex Jr., who is retired from full-time racing. This is going to be the best opportunity Chase Briscoe has had in the NASCAR Cup Series, and I know some say he doesn't deserve the seat. Well, I disagree with that. Chase Briscoe is a driver who is super, super talented, who hasn't really had the capabilities to show it. And when his equipment is under him, Chase Briscoe can run exceptionally well. I think Briscoe, while I don't know if he's going to be a massive championship threat and contender this year, I certainly do think that Chase Briscoe will be a threat for victories at least a couple times this year. And I think he will win at some point this year. I think that Joe Gibbs Racing is going to bring the pace and speed that they are going to need for him, and I think that James Small and Chase are going to get that basically worked out very well, and I think things are going to head in the right direction for this team and program in 2025. So I expect Chase Briscoe to be a threat and contender, and I think that 19 car will be in a little bit of a much better position in 2025. The 13th driver to watch out for in 2025 is Alex Bowman. Now, Alex Bowman had a very solid playoff run in 2024, and I feel like that there was always rumors going around about Alex Bowman, about him potentially losing his seat at Hendrick Motorsports, getting demoted down to Spire Motorsports, getting demoted to another program. Well, I do think that going into this year, Alex Bowman is going to be very similar to what he was in 2024, except he's going to be more consistent. I think he will be up front, contending for more wins on a week-by-week basis. I think Alex Bowman is a super, super talented race car driver who deserves to be at Hendrick Motorsports. Now, certainly he could be a free agent at the end of the year, even though technically his contract does go through 2026. But I do think Alex Bowman deserves to be at Hendrick Motorsports. He is someone who's been super, super good with this program for the last couple of years. Yes, he hasn't been as good as Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott at Hendrick, but I do believe that Alex Bowman is very, very talented and someone who has a lot of potential to be successful long-term in the sport, and I think he will be an outside contender for good runs in 2025. The 14th driver to watch out for in 2025 is Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's coming off finishing runner-up in the NASCAR Cup Series Championship after, of course, winning the championship in 2023. Ryan Blaney was the best Ford driver of 2024. He scored three victories, in 2024. And I feel like Ryan Blaney, like I said, is the only Ford driver on a consistent week-by-week basis that really, really showed up. And I think Ryan Blaney will be a championship contender, considering we're going back to Phoenix once again in 2025. He has to be the favorite with Team Penske's dominance at this racetrack. He's been very, very good in the Cup Series the last few years, and I think he will win at least a few victories like he did in 2023 and also in 2024. So I think Ryan Blaney will be a major threat throughout the 2025 season, and I think he'll have a great chance and opportunity to win the title as Team Penske looks to only get better and win another championship in 2025 once again. The 15 drivers to watch out for in 2025 is William Byron. William Byron had a very good start to 2024, but unfortunately had a very quiet run up until the end of the year. I believe in the last 7 or 8 races of this year, William Byron's worst finish, I believe, was like 6th or 7th. And this 2014 really turned it on. They were good in the beginning, they struggled in the middle, and they bounced back at the end. And I think this team might do the same thing again. But I do think William Byron and the 24 team are going to be here to play. We always know that they are very strong near the end of these years, and I think William Byron will be a threat and contender, most likely for the title in 2025 if he can hang on throughout the rest of the year. I expect William Byron to be very good, and I think that Hendrick Motorsports is going to bring the pace and speed so they can give a car for William Byron that he can be a threat and contender with, especially in 2025. The 16th driver that you should watch out for in 2025 is Carson Kvapil. Carson Kvapil is joining Junior Motorsports in 2025, and this is a really good opportunity for Carson. Carson's been full-time in the late model program for Junior Motorsports in the last couple of years, and I do think that Carson Kvapil is a very underrated driver. Last year, especially at the short ovals, Carson Kvapil was a superb driver. Very, very strong on those tracks and nearly won at Dover earlier this year. I expect Carson Kvapil to be a threat next year for a couple of victories. There's a lot of good competition, though, in Xfinity, but if there's someone that can take equipment and do extremely well with it, it is definitely a guy like Carson Kvapil. We've seen drivers who get the JRM and have successful long-term careers. Look at Josh Berry. He's going over the Wood Brothers this upcoming year and will be in Cup at least for the foreseeable future. I think Carson will be a threat in 2025, and I think that Junior Motorsports is going to give the car that he needs, so I expect a pretty strong and great year for Carson Kvapil in 2025. The 17 drivers to watch out for in 2025 is Christian Eckes. Christian Eck is moving up from the NASCAR Xfinity Truck Series up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2025 with Kaulig Racing. Christian Eckes has been super impressive in the Craftsman Truck Series, and let's be real and honest, he probably should have won the title in 2024 based on how consistent he was. He had like a 5th place average finish, led in pretty much every single race, and he had only 1 or 2 finishes outside of the top 10 the whole entire season. And I've been very impressed with Christian over the course of these last few years with how much of a better of a driver he has become. I think Christian's going to be good with Kaulig next year. I think he'll run about as good as AJ maybe did in the Xfinity Series in 2021 and 2022. He may not be strong on road courses all year, but I do believe that Christian Eckes will be very fast and a pretty big contender throughout 2025. The 18th driver that you should watch out for in 2025 is Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher was very underrated in 2024, and I think he kind of got cheated of making the playoffs. This 17 team, while they weren't as good as they were in 2023, they certainly were not a bad team. He got a victory at the end of the year at Watkins Glen, and I think Buescher was super solid and a major threat and contender at a lot of races and came close to making the playoffs multiple times and winning a few races. I think that Chris Buescher will bounce back and make the playoffs this year. I think that this number 17 team has been superb. They've been consistent. They have been strong. And I think that he'll be back to his winning ways and be back to go into victory lane in 2025. And I think it's going to be a strong year for Buescher. I think his team is ready to really show their stuff and the capabilities they have in 2025. The 19th driver to watch out for in 2025 is Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer is moving over to the Haas factory team in 2025, being teammates with Sheldon Creed. One thing about Sam Mayer is a guy can win races. There is no denying that, but he has made a ton of mistakes on the racetrack and has been super inconsistent. But I think Sam Mayer is going to clean up that consistency this upcoming year. I think especially with him being a little bit more of an older driver and hopefully that maturity really starting to come in, I think he will turn around the corner on the consistency side. I think he will run well because I think he's going to have people to work with him and help him, especially in the Ford camp from RFK especially, where I think they're going to be able to really help him. I do think he will win races in the NASCAR Xfinity Series once again, just like Riley Herbst and Cole Custer did with this program. I do think that you're going to see a pretty strong and good team for Sam Mayer, and I do think the Haas factory team, despite that Tony's no longer there, I think they're going to be pretty solid in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2025. And the 20th and final driver that I think you should watch out for in 2025 is Lane Riggs. This one's probably going to surprise some people that I have him on this list, but Lane Riggs was super good at the end of 2024. He won 2 of the final 8 races of the year and could have won a few other races at the end of this season. And his 38 team, I believe, is pretty much getting back together in 2025. So I only expect this team to go up and up from here. I expect it to be a pretty strong year for Lane Riggs in 2025, and I do think they're going to bring the pace and speed for Lane next year, where I think he will put up a fight for Corey Heim and Ty Majeski next year and Grant Enfinger next year. So I expect Lane to be a major threat and contender, and I think you're going to see some great things coming from the front row camp in the Truck Series in 2025. So those are the main drivers to watch out for. Let's talk about some honorable mentions. Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski, very good this year. Nearly made the list for this year, upcoming year. But I think that Brad will have a little bit of a decline in the consistency side, especially with his age. I think going to be starting to come into play because he will be 41 next year. But I still expect Brad to be pretty solid. Ryan Preece. It's expected on Tuesday that Ryan Preece is going to be going to RFK. I would put him on the list if he had been officially announced at this point, but I do think Preece will be pretty good. I think a lot of people really question Ryan Preece getting a chance and opportunity, and I don't think Ryan Preece has gotten the fair shake that I think he deserves. I think Ryan Preece is a very solid and good driver. Next, Rajah Caruth. Raj Caruth is expected to be back with Spire Motorsports next year, and I think he's really going to turn the wick up in the Truck Series next year. Raj is pretty good, can get the best out of equipment at times, and I do think that he'll be really good with Spire Motorsports once again in 2025. Next up, you've got 2 Justins in Justin Haley and Justin Allgaier. Justin Haley's going to Spire, going to have Rodney Childers, one of the best crew chiefs in NASCAR Cup history. I think you're going to see Justin Haley run exceptionally well next year. Justin Allgaier, same thing, coming off of winning the championship. The whole brigade is getting back together with that program. I think Allgaier is going to be good. I forgot to mention some people like Denny Hamlin. Hamlin's probably going to be fast this upcoming year. And I didn't want to forget to mention people, of course, like Michael McDowell, Aspire Motorsports. And there's probably fewer names that I mentioned. I forgot to mention maybe Hailie Deegan if she ever comes back. But I think that there's a lot of big names to watch out for. I think a lot of stuff will happen that could change this list throughout 2025. So, those are my top 20 drivers to watch out for in 2025. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. List description below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. Who's your drivers you're watching out for this upcoming season? Let me know them in the comments below. Later this afternoon, you're going to see a little mini silly season update, talk about things that have been confirmed and unconfirmed over the last week or so. We also, of course, are going then on Sunday, we're, of course, going to have a little bit of the predictions for the winners for the Cup Series. That is going to be coming on Sunday. And then on Monday, you're probably going to see a NASCAR news video because there's been so much news coming out. And then Tuesday, I probably got some special videos coming out, but I've also am going to have the video on the announcement of RFK Racing, which is coming at 10 a.m. Eastern this upcoming week. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys watching today's and we'll probably talk about Carl Lawrence, Hailie Deegan, Kurt Busch, you name it, this week as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.